Hello, hello. Hey, creatives. Phoebe here. Welcome back to the Girl Gang Craft Podcast. Your host today, it's just me, Phoebe Sherman. And it's been a while since I've hopped on here solo. I want to talk today about what to take on and what to let go of. This is a tricky one for probably a lot of you listening and for myself. I want to do everything all the time. I want to, increase our revenue, increase our programming, increase our reach, increase blah, 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 blah. And that mentality is actually toxic and it is erratic and it's a little wild. So I am trying my best to rein it back in. A lot of this has to do with my own inner work, learning that multitasking does not exist for me and probably not many of us. I have really learned that I need to do one thing at a time, focus on that task, and then move on to the other task. What has been a bottleneck for me as I've sort of embraced this way of thinking, of deep work, of deep focus, is the task switching is what is really challenging for me. Like the time that it takes for me to go to one task to another, that's like very different. That's challenging. I get a little lost, a little loosey-goosey, a little distracted. We go to the phone, blah, 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 blah. We go outside, we eat our food, and then it's really hard for me to start a new task that's like in a different genre, if you will, of the previous task. So what I do to combat that is, time blocking as much as possible. That means pairing tasks that are similar to each other back to back on my cal. I also really know my limits. Like some people are like, okay, I'm into batching podcasts, and they'll do like 5 podcasts in a row. And that is not for me. Like I can do 2 podcasts a day, maybe 2 interviews and 1 solo if I'm really, really feeling it. But same with meetings. Like a lot of people really take their meetings back to back. And I also can't do that. It's like 2-3 meetings tops is what I prefer and what works for me. I try my best to be really precious with my time, and sometimes that works for me. Sometimes I'm not so precious with my time. This is a little bit more of a different direction than what I was planning on talking about, but I do think it's important. I talked about on the podcast tons of times about how time management is really important as an entrepreneur. And it's something I'm interested in as a Virgo, as someone with ADHD, as someone who has been interested in multitasking my entire life, as someone who has been interested in a lot of things all at once, and also gets a lot of ideas, and I want to like act on those ideas and make them happen immediately with no patience and no realization that I can't do all the things I want to do all the time. If this sounds familiar for you, welcome. I love you. I feel for you. We're all in it together. And if you have any like quote unquote hacks or like ways that you manage your time, I'm always interested in that. So please feel free to share. You can DM me. And our voicemail inbox still exists. I always forget the phone number though, so we'll put that in somewhere into this podcast. Actually, let's just pause really quick and I'll find the number. Okay, our phone number voicemail is 413-961-0855. Remember the days when we used to like memorize all of the phone numbers? I still like know some phone numbers, but me learning a new one is not going to happen. Me and Matt really tried to like memorize each other's phone numbers because that is important to know your partner's phone numbers in case of emergency, in case of so many things. If you don't know your partner's cell phone number, I encourage you to learn it. Anyways, that took a lot out of me, and sometimes I still get it wrong. This is a different tangent. Okay, so I think it's really important to figure out what to focus on in terms of what you can handle, what like season of your life, what else you have to do, and also what your audience is going through at that time. Um, when you're, knee deep in quarter 3, heading into quarter 4, you have a limited amount of time this year, period. That's a fact. And you're not alone in that. So it is sometimes easier to tailor the rest of the year because there's all of these factors that are semi-universal. Holidays, seasons, um, what people in your customers are paying, what people in your niche are paying attention to. So I'll just talk about like my real world experience, and why I wanted to talk about this is because this whole year I had been planning on redoing some of my classes. Redoing and expanding on them. Right now they exist as an hour and a half like workshops, and I really wanted to turn one or more of them into a full sort of extensive course that you could take at your own pace. A month or two ago, I had decided, okay, I'm going to actually not do both our email class and brand partnership class. I'm just going to do our brand partnership class. And that feels like that's aligned with my goals, aligned with our audience. It's pretty unique. Not a lot of people who are geared towards, there's not a lot of brand partnership info that is geared towards creatives, less typical influencers, right? And our Girl Gang Craft niche is very specific. Anyways, so I was going to double down on this brand partnership class and get it out for you like nowish, like mid-October, late October, because there's sort of this deadline, right? When we're moving into November, like no one wants to buy a class. Our community is in craft fairs, is doubling down on their holiday sales, is starting to gear up for rest at the end of it. Like no one is buying a course past October. Even October is perhaps pushing it for a course sale. But I was still determined to get this brand partnership class going. I had really, started a couple of the, I curated our new look. We have some slides down for several modules. The whole thing is, rough draft, what's the word? Outlined. The whole thing is outlined. And it was just a matter of, making the slides and recording and putting them up in our hub. With the goal of getting that out last 2 weeks of October. Now, to further complicate things, I had a honeymoon last month in September. September is a wild month for me. It's our anniversary. It's my birthday. We had our honeymoon. Anyways, I was gone for 12 days. And then at the time of this recording, I'm supposed to go to Miami like next week for Adobe Max. So there was literal holes of me being gone to not work on this project. Anyways, moral of the story is that this was an impossible task. Like this wasn't going to happen. Like Phoebe, you're delusional. Not to mention all the other things I have to do right about now besides these trips, besides, my brand partnership stuff, deadlines. We have 5 holiday craft fairs to throw. And I do have a really supportive team, but I'm involved with a lot of those decisions and organizations and, of course, heading the craft fairs over here on the East Coast. Plus, I decided to redo our website. Anyways, we can talk about that in a moment. Basically, it was an impossible task, and I was like, this isn't going to happen. And it didn't happen. I decided I was going to think about it over the honeymoon, and I think even just the allowing space and time to think about it, the answer was immediately no. Like, this is not going to happen. And we're going to redo that brand partnership class early in the next year. That makes so much more sense in terms of other people's timelines as well, right? Thinking about your customers' timeline and when they're wanting to buy things. Like, Q1 is generally slower for small business owners. And so that's a great time to invest in your education. So that matched up really well. And sometimes I know I made the right decision because my body immediately relaxes. Other times it takes like a couple days for my body to relax and be like, oh, yes. But often dropping things is really beneficial. And this is scary and hard when you are relying on these things to bring in money. Money is challenging. So often, yeah, I mean, it's just really challenging to decide what to move forward with in terms of funding your business and funding your lifestyle and funding your rent and paying your bills, blah, blah, blah. But often I find, and I'm saying this because I always forget that often I find when I let things go, other things come into fruition. And this includes things that are connected with money. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many other things that I can be focusing on Q4 that I am focusing on, right? Our events, brand partnerships, and our apparel, especially this close to an election cycle or election day, which I really don't want to get into right now in this moment. So I do want to back up on some of those things and just share some facts and some statistics. Our brand partnerships, let's see, we made about 30,000 in brand partnerships last year. This year up to now, like we're about to hit like maybe 50K. So and maybe on track to double it. We'll see how this holiday season lines up. But so that's a huge gain from last year, 30,000 to 50 or maybe 60,000 in brand partnerships, we're hoping. We have 2x'd our apparel sales on our website. And I've talked about before that our apparel sales were fine, not great. And the reason I put more attention and care into our apparel this year. We have some new items and some new items that have been really successful. So we've 2x'd our website sales, which is amazing and awesome. And yeah, and then I want to talk about the website too. I got my website done by Meredith from Quixotic Design Co. 2020. Like right before the pandemic. Maybe I signed with her 2019. And that was amazing investment. And at this point, we've sort of grown out of that branding and there's been sort of a lot of changes. And I still love that initial brand, but we have, sort of ebbed and flown and changed. And I wanted something different. And I had looked into working with other designers or reworking with her, or just what I wanted to invest in the website. And ultimately, I decided that I didn't have money for that. I really didn't have an extra like 10, 15K sitting around. And that's really what it costs to make a good website these days, like 10 or 15K. I had wanted to switch to Shopify. Right now we're on Wix, and basically all of these things were big hurdles. Looking for a new designer was challenging. Looking for a new designer that wanted to switch us over to Shopify was challenging. And then I was looking into, okay, what would it look like for me to design our website? What would it look like for me to switch over to Shopify? And ultimately, that learning curve to switch to Shopify was a big hill to get over, and I didn't have the time and space to do that. Additionally, Shopify, maybe it'll be a good fit for us at some point, but we do so much service based stuff and have, our podcast and blog and all of these different pages that didn't necessarily feel conducive to Shopify, or Shopify wasn't even able to do some of these things. That means that maybe down the line or whatever. Ultimately, we stuck with Wix, and I designed our new logo suite, our new branding. We've sort of switched colors. RIP, it actually feels really sad and weird and intense to like move away from this pink and orange. We kind of have a different shade of light pink and like reddish. I mean, I literally painted my walls pink and orange, if you've seen pictures or video from my dining room. And yeah, we're a different vibe. We're in a electric blue, electric green vibe. We have some purple. Anyways, I'm really proud of my design. I do have, the ability to design things. I have experience uh, as a brand designer, but sometimes it can feel so scary and doing your own stuff. There's obviously more room for critique. And anyways, we decided to move forward with my own designs. Especially because I couldn't afford a designer or a website rebuild at this time. So we're kind of in the middle of our website rebuild. The homepage is on there. Things have been changed. And we're really embracing imperfection because we couldn't make it happen for a full rebrand and switch over. So there are some pages that haven't been switched over, and that's just what's happening right now. So I think it's really important to embrace imperfection. Maybe you're horrified at the statement. Maybe you're like, oh my God, why would you do that? Like, make sure you have the whole website designed first. And there are moments where it horrifies me, but there's literally only so much time in the day and like so much capability that I can move forward with and my team can do. And we really have to embrace where we are right now, instead of where we think we could be or what other brands are doing. Sometimes like the way that you can do something, it's okay. It's the right way for you at that time. So we have a mostly new website up if you want to go check it out. What else do I want to say about this? I guess circling back to this idea of doing what you can and deciding what to let go of and deciding what to focus on. I mean, I think your whole business can maybe be summed up in that challenging world of deciding where to spend your time, deciding what to focus on, what's going to resonate with your audience, what's going to resonate with you, what you have time for, what you can fit in your day. And it's all challenging. I will say that you probably can do less than you think you can. I will say that there are seasons of working really, really hard. And then hopefully there are seasons of you not working really, really hard, because that's going to lead to burnout. So really, I think that small business, I think being an entrepreneur is like a crash course in inner work. And if you're not healthy, the business isn't healthy. So I think it's really important to take it seriously with what you can do, what you can move forward with, how you're spending your time, how you're taking care of yourself, how is your world around you as best you can. And, of course, it's challenging and scary and terrifying when we're working with scarcity mindset. We're just living in late stage capitalism. How are we going to pay our bills? How are we going to make these things work? And I don't have the answers with that. I'm still, working on it every single day. I am trying my best to trust the process and trust our community and trust what we've built to bring in money. And also, it is scary. This is not a very uplifting note to end on. But yeah, I think it is a balance of, inner work and then also learning new marketing, learning, new tactics for growth, making sure that you're on top of your accounting. Um, and yeah, and then taking care of your community, right? When your community is feeling taken care of, you're going to feel taken care of as well. Okay, I think that's all I want to say for now. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you RSVP to our events. Our first one is Sacramento, November 16th. Salem is November 23rd. Providence and Oakland are both on December 7th on opposite coasts. And then our new event, Malden, is December 14th. And our holiday gift guide should be up shortly, so stay tuned for that so you can shop from Femme Forward businesses and get some fun gifties. And I hope you follow me at Phoebe Sherman and Golden Craft at Golden Craft. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and this podcast. And thank you for tuning in.